Hello YouTube divers, this is WaterDive 122 and I want to welcome you all to another episode of Magic Metal Mondays. Today we are finally going to be talking about my top 10 favorite albums from 2021. Now, I know it's about 9 or 10 days into the 2022 year, and I know this video is relatively late. I just wanted to make sure that I had everything that I wanted to have on this list. And honestly, this list could be very interchangeable. Like, if I like a lot of these, like, I love all these records, for that matter, hence why they're in my top 10, duh. Um, but honestly, they could interchange any given day. Some albums could come out, some albums can come in. It just depends on how I'm feeling, like what I want to listen to. And honestly, listening to these albums was, in a good way, a little bit of a challenge. And they were a little bit of a task to get through. But honestly, they were all worth it. These albums are just absolutely great. So let's not waste any more time here. Let's jump right into the list. Number 10 is Bionic Swarm by Kryptosis, the debut album by Kryptosis. This was the first album released under the Kryptosis name. They were originally doing another project. I don't remember what the name of that project, I don't remember what the name of their original project was, and I'm not even going to try and attempt that pronunciation because it's just so weird. And for those of you who don't know my channel, like, for all you newcomers out there, I usually tend to give debut albums a little bit of flack, because it's the first album. The band is not really that experienced yet to do the stuff they want to do yet. Like, the ideas are not fleshed out yet. All that stuff. But when it comes to and then, of course, there are certain bands that I will give an exception to, like Guns N' Roses, like like Halloween. I'm starting to really dig Walls of Jericho now, and a lot of other bands down the stretch. And I will definitely make an exception here for Kryptosis. This is a great modern day thrash metal album. This is, I would say, it is up there with some of the best. I would definitely say it was a nice little throwback to certain types of thrash metal, like specifically progressive thrash metal, like progressive thrash metal. This album feels like a really, really proggy type of thrash metal direction, I guess, kind of like in that Sabotage type of style, but except way, way, way more heavier than Sabotage. And some songs on here even feel like old school thrash metal bands can make it. Take, for example, the closing track, Flux Divergence, which, in my opinion, sounds like a Dark Angel song, and Dark Angel is one of my all-time favorite bands. So, yeah, I really love Flux Divergence. It's a heavy song, it's thrash metal, it's basically it's fast, it's basically a thrash metal type of song, and I really love it. Other songs on here that are really great are Transcendence and Death Technology. Really, really great stuff here. And same thing with Deceiver. Deceiver's great. And really, the other songs are just enjoyable. This album is pretty much all killer, no filler type of album. Sure, there are several songs where they have parts on there that I'm not really that crazy about and are not that memorable to me, but still, they're enjoyable nonetheless. And really, with these first batch of albums, you can basically say that. But honestly, Bionic Swarm is a really, really great start to a brand new project from an experienced band who is just hungry and they are just ready to start things over again. And also shout out to Old Head for introducing me to this album, because I saw his end of the year list and he had this at number 3, and he basically said that, if you don't have this album in your top 10, then I'm gonna take away your metal license and replace it with a boring as F card, something like that. And I didn't check out this album solely for the base of that, solely for the purpose of that. I checked out this album because I wanted to see what was so good about it, and all the things I find good about it is good enough to end it up here in my top 10, beating out albums like Hushed and Grim by Mastodon. Yeah, that just barely missed out on my list. Senjutsu by Iron Maiden. Colors 2 by Between the Buried and Me. Now, the only reason why I left off Between the Colors 2 is because I don't really get the whole Colors concept. I need to listen to the first one firsthand, and then maybe go back and listen to the second one. But, overall, Bionic Swarm, definitely a great start. Moving on to number 9. Number 9 is Eternal Hails by Dark Throne, the 18th album released by Norwegian black metal legends Dark Throne. Yeah, this is just a great, great song. Sure, the songs are a little bit over the top for me on some occasions, but it's just a great listen nonetheless. The riffs on here are just killer. The vocals, they're a little bit on and off for me, especially on the song Hate Cloak, but overall, the vocals just fit in perfectly with the music, and of course the incredibly dirty and muddy production of this thing, and of course the amazing album cover is just, oh, it's so gorgeous. But in all honesty, this is Dark Throne being Dark Throne, but with just a little bit of a modern taste. There's so many great songs on here, like His Master's Voice and Hate Cloak are all really great. And some of the longer songs on here, like there's a 10-minute song on here, Voyage to the North Pole Adrift. I believe that's the name of the song. Yeah. And Lost Arcane City of Upacra. I believe that was the name of that song. That's a really great song too. And of course, Wake of the Awakened. It's just so great. That's basically all the songs in here. There's 5 songs on here, but all of them are at least over 5 minutes long. Like 5 minutes and 30 seconds long. Which, sure, can be a little bit tiring, but maybe you have to take several breaks. It's really one of those albums where it's a hard time to get into, but once you do, holy jeez, is it ever rewarding. I really dig this album. And it's my favorite black metal album from this year. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. Looking at you, Metal Meltdown. But honestly, this is a great album. Love this album. And, I think it just may have gotten me into Dark Throne. Who knows? Alright, moving on to number 8. A View from the Top of the World by Dream Theater. I'm going to make this one quick because I did a whole album review for this album, basically talking about the tracks a little bit more in detail, but I still dig songs like The Alien, the title track, Answering the Call, and of course the masterpiece that is Transcending Time. Really great progressive metal album, and a pretty good Dream Theater album at that. And honestly, this album might as well have just gotten me into Dream Theater. I really dig this album. It's a great prog metal album. Now we're moving on to number 7, my favorite thrash metal album from this year. We are talking about Hell Unleashed by Evil. Oh boy, is this thing aggressive. I mean, the first 3 songs on here, Paralyzed, Gore, and Incarcerated, these 3 songs are just so punchy. Like they're never ending freaking fracking riff machines. It is just caked with so many glorious thrash metal riffs that bring you back memories of the glory days in the 80s when thrash metal was just at its absolute peak. It is just one of those albums where it is a callback to some of the best thrash metal that has ever written, even though it's not exactly supposed to be a callback at that. But it just works so well. And honestly, this is a very, very nice breath of fresh air when it comes to modern day thrash metal. What more do you want me to say? I mean, the title track's great. I already mentioned the first 3 tracks on here. The Thing is really great. There's not much else I can say. I love this album. Great guitar playing, great vocals, aggressive atmosphere. I love this album. What more do you want me to say? Moving on to number 6. This is one of 3 doom metal albums that I have on this list. Number 6 is Deceiver by Chemist. Chemist is, in my opinion, one of those metal bands that is up and coming. Truly up and coming. One of these days, these guys are going to be absolute classics. Like, these guys are going to be classic metal legend, like doom metal legends. One of the classic doom metal bands of the modern era. Deceiver, my introduction to Chemist, I love it. I love this band. I love what they do, and I love Phil Pendergast. I believe that's the name of their lead vocalist. He is just an amazing singer. I mean, when it comes to melodic singing, to death metal growls, to black metal screams, this dude has it all. And on top of that, he can play guitar as well. This dude is freaking talented, man. And of course, I gotta give credit to everybody else in the band. They all do a great job. I mean, the melodies on here are just absolutely mesmerizing, especially on my favorite song on the album, which is Living Pyre. Absolutely love that song. Infernal Gate is really, really great as well. The Astral Road, House of Caderna, I believe that's what it was. Yeah. And, of course, the aforementioned Living Pyre is just... This album just slaps. It slaps. It's doom metal, but with so much more elements of metal being sprinkled in here and there. I love this album. I can't say it enough. I love this album. Now, we're moving on to number 5. And honestly, from here on out, these are albums that I consider to be masterpieces. And honestly, these are records that... Basically, no, I'm sorry. I take it back. From Deceiver onwards, I consider all these albums to be masterpieces from 2021. So number 5 is Marching in Time by Tremonti, the 5th solo album, if I'm correct, from Mark Tremonti's solo career. Now, if you know Mark Tremonti, you would mostly recognize him from his work with Creed. He was their lead singer and guitarist from that band, and also with the band Alter Bridge. If you like them, then you should be relatively familiar with him. And then, of course, the 5 albums he's done so far in his solo career, including this one, Marching in Time. This is my introduction to Tremonti, and honestly, what an introduction it was. This album is just so lush. It's so beautiful. This is a beautiful record. Like, the melodies on here, the riffs, the vocals, the drums, the bass, everything about this album is just so great. Especially the final song on here, which is the title track, Marching in Time. One of the best modern day metal songs I have ever heard. Ever. Period. End of discussion. It is just so great. The melodies are just phenomenal. Not Afraid to Lose is a great song as well. Let There Be Us. Would You Kill is just... This album is just lush. It's amazing. It's a beautiful album. What more do you want me to say? I love this record. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. Now we're moving on to number 4. Violence Unimagined by Cannibal Corpse. Easily the best death metal album from this year. End of discussion. I mean, from the amazing riffs to the fast drumming to the horrific artwork Corpse Grinder's amazing vocals, growls in this case. It just feels like Cannibal Corpse hasn't lost any energy from the old days. And honestly, if Morbid Angel didn't get me into death metal, if Bathory didn't get me into extreme music, then Cannibal Corpse did both of those things. I love this album, and as a matter of fact, this is not only my favorite death metal album from this year. No. It's not just that. It is also, as of right now, my all-time favorite death metal album, period. There's not a single riff on this album where I get bored. I just want to have a good time, and I just want to see these dudes live, sit at the front row, have my, chant along with them. It's just, this is really one of those albums where I wish I was at a Cannibal Corpse concert and I was jamming, and I was, having fun, and, at a metal concert and, jamming with these guys. And I might check out some of their earlier stuff too. I really feel like this album has done it for me when it comes to the Cannibal Corpse catalog. And who knows? Maybe when I listen to all their albums, I might do an album ranking of theirs. Who knows? Who frackin' knows? So with that said, Murderous Rampage, Inhumane Harvest, Follow the Blood, and of course, the closing track, Cerements of the Flayed. Yeah, the Cerements of Flayed, rather. Really, really great stuff on here, and it has to come in here at number 4. Really, really great album. Moving on to number 3, the Tritonus Bell by Hooded Menace. Now, this was for a very long time my number 2, but the number 1 spot was easy. Really, my top 3 picks, my numbers 2 and number 3 were kind of changed in preparation for this video. But I put the Tritonus Bell a little bit lower because I feel like the next 2 albums just are a little bit more important to me. But still, the Tritonus Bell, great death doom album. It combines both traditional metal with death doom, and it's just great. I love the death growls on here. I love the riffs on here, especially on my favorite track, Chime Diabolicus, which is just a masterpiece. And then of course you got some more then you got some more technical stuff. You have an instrumental on here. You have a cover on here. Really, this album is just, oh yeah, and Blood Ornaments. I love Blood Ornaments. Really, basically from the opening intro track, Chime Diabolicus, Blood Ornaments, and basically these 3 tracks are just so great. They're just so great. I will make an album review for this album. This is just a phenomenal album. It's a death doom masterpiece. And now we go on to number 2. I will briefly talk about this one because I also did an album review for this one. We are talking about Moonflowers by Swallow the Sun. I already said it on my Moonflowers album review, but I'll say it again. This album is freaking amazing. This is a masterpiece in the death doom genre. This got me into Swallow the Sun, and it will likely get me into more death doom stuff. I love the atmosphere of this album, woven into sorrow. Moonflowers bloom in misery. This house has no home. All Hallows Grave. This is a flawless album. Easily my favorite death doom album from this year. And now, if you've been following me since this album came out, then you know what's my number 1. It's the self-titled Helloween album. A masterpiece in the power metal genre and the Helloween catalog. This album has raised up so much higher. I like it more than Chameleon. I like it more than Master of the Rings. And I might like it a little bit more than Pink Bubbles Go Ape. And, really, it's just the 2 Keeper of the Seven Keys albums that I like a little bit more. But still, there is never a moment where I will never stop playing Fear of the Fallen, Robot King, Skyfall, and a couple of the other songs in here like Mass Pollution and Out for the Glory. This album is just a masterpiece. I don't care about the long length about it. Helloween's my favorite metal band. I love everything that they do. Well, mostly everything that they do. But still, this album is just great from start to finish. This is a masterpiece. One of the best albums they ever made. In my opinion, it's their best album since Keeper of the Seven Keys to Legacy. It's just that great. And if you want more information on what I think about the tracks on this album, I also did an album review for this one as well. So, yeah, with that said, that concludes this edition of Magic Metal Mondays. Please feel free to let me know what your top 10 favorite albums from 2021 are in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is WaterDive122 signing out, ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.